Well, hello and welcome to the Essential Question Adventure Pack. I am so happy you're here. My name is Amanda and I am the author of this curriculum, and I am so excited to give you the inspirational step forward that you need to really harness this essential question. In this module, there are lots of links and resources to essential question and inquiry-driven teaching. So if you're new to this philosophy, welcome. And I've got lots and lots of resources for you as you start this journey. And if you are at the beginning of your experience as an inquiry-driven teacher, all I want to tell you right now is it's okay to make mistakes. It's okay to not know exactly what you're doing. The beauty of inquiry-driven learning is that it's inquiry for us too, not just for our students. Inquiring minds are curious. There is no one final destination that is right for everybody. We are all headed down a path of asking questions, being driven by our curiosity, being driven by trying to find a better answer than I could come up with when I had less information. So as we kind of get ourselves oriented into the essential question process, just give yourself permission to be a little bit lost. It's okay to be comfortable in your fear, in your disorganization of your mind. Like, it's okay. Like, that's how we get better. So let's talk all about what this question means for us as humans, for our students, as people trying to navigate the world at their age. Really having an understanding of the question is one of the most important things teachers can do before embarking on an essential question-based unit. We don't talk about this enough. And so I wanted to make sure that there was a dedicated space to really think through the question, why do relationships matter? One of the things I really like about this question is it's so simple. It's so seemingly uncomplicated. The answer, a lot of people probably would just say, because they do. And I guarantee you'll have students who say that, or they don't. You'll get very basic responses off the gate, because the question, first of all, implies that they do matter. Why do they matter? And so students kind of come at this question thinking about, well, because we need them. And so the beauty of an essential question that has an ambiguous first answer means that we get to spend the whole unit unpacking the layers of complexity, the so whats, the whys, the causes, the effects, the what ifs. Those are all of the extra questions that you want to be ready to ask is, okay, you've decided this about relationships. Well, what if this? We've decided that relationships are necessary. They make us feel connected. They are part of the human experience. Well, what if there's a global pandemic and people cannot connect anymore? What's going to happen? How will relationships change, suffer, evolve? We have a lot of ways to bend this question into new territory, depending on the age of your students, the skill level of your students, the time of year. This question will probably bear different weight if you're just getting to know your students, as opposed to having this question at the end of the year when you all have a very comfortable relationship. So think about all of those things as you're kind of going through this pack and you're orienting yourselves to the materials and thinking about, how does this look in my classroom? The other thing that's really beautiful about this question is it's so wide open to texts. Don't be afraid to use this question for multiple units with different books. You're going to have a completely different result based on the core text that you're using or the series of books that you put on your list for choice. This unit works beautifully whether you have lit circles, choice reading, or a whole class novel unit. It all works. That part is up to you. The book, the text, what you use, that is your choice. That's what you're bringing to the table. What I'm bringing to the table for you is how we're going to round that out, how we're going to decenter the novel from the middle of our unit. We want the novel, the texts, whatever kids are reading at the core of this unit to matter in relation to the essential question. We don't want the plot just to exist by itself. We want the essential question to exist and the book to be a vehicle that helps us address the complexities of that question because of what we've seen in our characters, the protagonists, the foils, the villains, everything that they're doing, seeing, experiencing, the memoirs that you're reading of real people. All of that is commenting on our essential question and helping students see the layers of complexity when it comes to relationships. I have personally used this question with the novel A Thousand Splendid Suns. And then I've coached teachers that have done a lot of other things. Memoir units work really beautifully with this. I would recommend Crying in H Mart. I love using YA with this question. Things like I Am Not Your Perfect Mexican Daughter is a beautiful way of addressing this question and the complexity of relationships in terms of grief. Grief is a big part of that story. How the Garcia Girls Lost Their Accents is a great story. If you've never read Julia Alvarez, I love Garcia Girls as these girls are wrestling not only with their coming of age identity, but their relationship with one another as sisters and how that relationship changes when we cross from one country, one culture into another. The Garcia Girls are Dominican and they grew up in the Dominican world, and then they are now in the US. They're experiencing what it's like to assimilate into a new culture and how all of that impacts their relationships with their family, both in the US and the family they've left at home, has a big, incredible bearing on what we understand about relationships. There are so many books. Don't forget to check out the book list that I have linked here. The link is hosted on bookshop.org. I would love for you to shop on bookshop.org. Your purchases goes to help local bookstores. Yes, we all love Amazon, but shopping local is a great way to get started on your giving back journey if you're ready to do that. So don't be intimidated. Choose a great story and just get started. And when we're thinking about relationships, remember too that there is a wide scope of sub-questions. Sometimes it helps me when I'm early in my essential question journey to think about, even week by week, the ways I'm going to break down my essential questions. So why do relationships matter? Okay, well, maybe the week one, I want to focus on one umbrella, one piece of relationships. Maybe it's parent-child relationships. That's going to be the focus of week one. And I choose that focus because that is a heightened or a more relevant piece of the core text, or is a really important part of the supplemental that I've chosen for that week. But either way, it kind of frames, your unit's got the big frame of the essential question, but then you can kind of frame your weeks by these smaller pieces. And if you're, I don't know, that's just kind of how my life is not that organized, but I like having my calendar organized if I can. And that really helps me think through the process of what that looks like. It also, in my head, starts to look a little bit like an essay. If an essay is the product that you would like to have at the end of this unit, if you're thinking through your weeks like, okay, we're going to focus on parent-child relationships, then we're going to focus on romantic relationships, then we're going to focus on our relationship with home and culture. That is, if you're going to use a traditional 5-paragraph essay, that is the outline of an essay. And you've done a lot of work already before getting to that point in terms of the cognitive labor of thinking through why the relationships matter, that when students get to the end and you say, okay, so why do relationships matter? They can give you their claim and then they can back it up through evidence of a parent-child relationship, through a cultural relationship with home, and then romantic relationships as well. So you're kind of building the scaffolding part of the writing process into your unit. So think about those different frames of looking at your unit in terms of the kinds of relationships you can study because of the core text that you've chosen or because of the core supplements that you've chosen. If you're doing a whole class novel, you're probably going to be leaning more on that novel and a little bit less on the supplements. If you're doing lit circles, you're probably going to lean a little less on the novel and more on the supplements. There's a video in this guide all about pacing both of those scenarios out and what to do. It's just up to you to decide how this is all going to feel when you put it together. I've given you a lot of pieces, but it's up to you, the creator, the designer, to put it all together. I also want to encourage you to try, like I said this a little bit earlier, but I want to encourage you to try this unit with different levels. Try this unit with a senior English class that you're never going to see again, and try this with a freshman class that maybe you want to do a different novel study. Try this with your 7th grade, and then try this with your 8th grade. See where it fits the best for you and how you can use different kinds of texts to bring about different types of conversations. The heart of this question that really I want us all to think about is this idea of connection. Why do we need connection? And what happens when that's absent? That's one of the first complications that I have my students look at is, why do we need connection and what happens when it's absent? It also gives chance to weigh the importance of the relationships in their lives. What's worth fighting for? What's really critical that we let go of? How do we let go of relationships? How do I know that what I'm experiencing is unhealthy and not what this type of relationship should look like? There's a really not so subtle strand of this unit that is very SEL focused. Relationships are the core of our students' experiences in their lives. Our human experience, this is how we live, is through our connections to other people. And students can really learn a lot in this unit about their own relationships, how they treat others, how they experience the world with the people that they spend the most time with, whether it's their friendships, their relationships with their parents, whatever that might be. Give them the space that they need to explore and weigh the relationships in their own lives and what they're going to do with those and about those. I think what's really beautiful about this question, and kind of the thought I want to leave us all with, is that this question is highly suitable to everyone's experience. Whatever your students bring with them to their class, whether they are the most high achieving, well-behaved, always does their homework student, that student has a different relationship with the people in their lives than the student who maybe doesn't have all of those beautiful academic behaviors. Getting to the core of relationships is a leveler. This is what we talk about when we talk about equitable instruction. We're putting something at the center of our class that everybody has access to. Everybody has something to say about. Everybody has an experience with. And whether or not students are keeping up with your reading calendar or are constantly cooperating with your expectations, that doesn't matter as much as getting our students to think about this question, evolve in their understanding of the question, and practice the skills needed to articulate their answer to this question. That's what matters right now in this unit, and I'm here for you every step of the way. I can't wait to see what incredible products your students come up with as they explore the question, why do relationships matter? Thank you for being here, and we'll talk soon.